I watched a video the other day where a man said that he hated this pedal. I love this pedal, and I want you to love this pedal, and that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna respond to Rhett Shull, and I'm gonna show you and Rhett why I love this pedal. And by the end of this video, hopefully, I will have changed your mind. And as a gesture of my goodwill, if we can get 10,000 views on this video and put it in front of Rhett's eyeballs, I am gonna take this pedal and permanently ink it to my body, right there. New tattoo, Tube Screamer, going on the bicep, if we can get 10,000 views on this video. Let's talk about Tube Screamers. Before we start this video, there are a couple of things that I think are necessary to say. First of all, I think that Rhett is an amazing YouTuber and an amazing guitar player. I've got a lot of respect for him. I think that Rhett is great at what he does, and part of the reason why I'm making YouTube videos is because I really got into Rhett's channel when he had, like less than 100,000, probably even less than 50,000 subscribers. I started watching his videos. Some of the gear that I have bought to make my own videos, like this Sony camera that we're filming on, is because I liked the look of Rhett's videos and I went to see what he was using so that I could get a similar look. Additionally, we love guitar gear. That's why any of us make videos focusing on guitar gear, is because we love gear, we love to talk about it. I love the guitar. I started recording in the first place because I love the guitar. I make rock and country records because I love the guitar, and there's a lot of guitar on rock and country records. And so that's why I watch someone like Rhett Shull, because he's a guitar player and he makes guitar content. That's why I make the content that I make, is because I love the guitar and I love talking about guitar sounds and amps and pedals. I think that it's supposed to be fun. These kind of conversations are supposed to be fun. Again, it's not an attack on Rhett Shull. It's engaging in the conversation that he opened us all up to. He has comments on his video with people agreeing with him, with people disagreeing with him. And so this is my response. This is my attempt to engage in the conversation that you started, Rhett. If you end up watching this video, I hope that you enjoy it, and I hope that you know that I think that you're great, and this is not in any way an attack on you, even though you hate Tube Screamers. And I think that Tube Screamers are great, and I'm here to defend their honor. All right, with that said, let's just talk about how we're set up here. I've got an amp in the room with me. I've got a little Tyler PT14, and I've got it mic'd up with an SM57. I need to say that this is almost never the way that I listen to guitar. I'm a music producer, I'm an audio engineer, I'm almost always listening to guitar through these speakers with a cab that's mic'd up in the other room. I'm never listening to the sound, basically never listening to the sound of an amp in a room. I'm always trying to listen to it in context of a song too. Never, ever listening to it by itself, except for when we're initially dialing up the sound. But as soon as the guitar player starts to play the song, I'm taking note of what I'm hearing and how it's fitting with the bass and the drums and saying, does this sound too dark? Is it too bright? So it's always in the context of a song. When I watched Rhett's video, I thought that it was really interesting because I'm watching with those thoughts in my mind. And Rhett is approaching it like a guitarist. He's hearing amps on stage. He's hearing amps in his room when he's practicing. He's probably practicing with an amp. Even though I know that he makes videos and he makes records too, I think that he's probably more inclined to listen to what the guitar actually sounds like to him in front of him, because that's how he most often, in my assumption anyways, that's how he most often engages with the instrument, is by listening to it in the room with him, whether it's on stage or in his practice room, his house, whatever. But when I saw his video, I actually thought, as he's reacting sort of like, oh gosh, it's too bright, it's so bright, I can't stand it, I'm listening to the clip before he starts to talk over it, and I'm going, that guitar sound is really cool. I actually really, really like that. Like, I thought that his tone is a little bit like, it almost sounds like he's got a Tube Screamer on. It's so mid-ranging to begin with. But then I also thought, this is kind of cool because his sound is really good even with the Tube Screamer on. Like, what he's saying is too bright, I think would really work really well in a record. So I set up this Tyler amp. I've got my Les Paul because Rhett was playing a Les Paul. I've got my Tube Screamer over here, and I've got an SM57 miking this thing up, and we're going to listen to what kind of the bass tone that I have sounds like. I just want to say that the controls, you'll see them on the screen here, at least the front of the amp. The treble is just past noon, the bass is at noon, and then on the back of the amp, the mid knob is like nearly cranked. It's hard to tell because of where the knob starts, but I think it's at about 8.5 maybe. We'll say 8 just to be a little conservative, but I wanted to wind the mids up because Rhett had a very mid-forward sound, and I'm getting a pretty mid-forward sound here, and so this is what the guitar sounds like through the amplifier, just with no Tube Screamer turned on at all. Okay, so barely broken up and also pretty mid-forward. All right, and now we are going to turn the Tube Screamer on. All right, and we'll listen to the difference. Now, I've got a pretty gain-heavy setting here. I'm going to actually take that back just a little bit. I was playing around with it earlier. I've kind of matched it at unity gain, and I'm going for a darker sound first, and here is what it sounds like. Sounds really good. Sounds dark. I think that, you know, maybe with a little more gain, we could, you know, it's going to sound fine too. It's still very mid-rangey. I think this is a great sound that you could use on a record as like a darker guitar that you want to sit like a little bit back behind everything else. Maybe your drum sounds and your lead sound are a lot brighter, so you need this guitar to kind of be a little bit more, you know, sit back, sit down in the mix and not take like center stage or be like what grabs your attention, right? But you add a little bit of gain to it, and you still have a great sound. Lots of mids, all right, but maybe a little too dark on this sound. But this is still a great sound, and we're kind of driving the amp now with a lot of mids. But I think that it's like nice and even. Okay, so definitely not too harsh right now where I'm sitting. It's loud, so that bugs me a little bit, but let's go ahead and let's wind it up. Let's get some brightness out of it now. Okay, so in Rhett's video, he was talking about how it was sounding really harsh, almost so harsh that he couldn't stand to listen to it. And, you know, that's totally his opinion. I'm not trying to argue with that. But that's actually the part where I was like, oh, that's like a really good, bright guitar sound, though. Like on a record, I think that would actually really, really work, even though it's kind of painful to listen to in the room. And that's where I think the pedal is actually starting to really shine and take off. And you could almost, with this amount of gain and this amount of brightness, like you could have a really palm muty kind of like punk rock kind of a sound, or you could have a really good like lead kind of a sound that would work really good in a record. Yeah, that's great. Okay, yeah, it's a little bright in the room. You know, the amp is probably on like 3.5 or 4, so it's pretty loud in here. Like I said, definitely a bright sound, but not like punishing me. But we're gonna go ahead and go on up. I've got the tone knob cranked all the way up because I'm trying to recreate like a similar experience that Rhett probably had, where it's like too bright to listen to this amp in the room, but it's still like a sound that could really, really work on a record. And it's more like of those kind of punky, like overdriven kind of chords, and then also play like some kind of little lead thing, because I think it could actually work. I think it's actually with the 57 and it mic'd up, even though it's a little bit like, you know, harsh in the room, this is a sound that could really work on a record. So let's check it out. love this guitar sound. It is badass. I love this guitar sound. I'm so happy with how it sounded. I've listened back to the examples. I can see where Rhett is coming from now. I feel like this actually was a good experience to put the amp in the room with me and to try to mic it up, but then to also listen to it the way that I normally listen to guitars. And I think that there are a lot of different variations that we got out of the pedal. I can see it working in a lot of different scenarios on records. I can see how it was probably too bright in Rhett's experience. It was a little bright to sit here right next to this amp and play it, but I think that it really, really works in a recorded context. Part of that is to do with the mic and maybe the mic preamp, the position on the cabinet or whatever, but I would tell you this, it's a mainstay in recording for a reason. It sounds great. It's super useful. I think that Rhett's guitar sounds were actually better than he gave them credit for in his video. That was one of the main reasons why I wanted to make this video, is because when I watched his and I listened, even though his clips were sort of short, I was like, oh, that's a good guitar sound. So, you know, I can see, I get what he was trying to go for. As a player, you know, yeah, maybe it's not your thing. Maybe you like other pedals better and you feel like other pedals get your sound. That's cool. That's the whole reason to have a bunch of pedals. That's why we're here in the first place. But don't hate it, man. Don't hate it. This is a great pedal. And I would encourage you, if you're new to the guitar and you've seen Rhett's video and you're trying to figure out what pedal is the best for you, get a Morning Glory, get a BB preamp, get a Greer Lightspeed, get a Tube Screamer, and try them all. Get a Boss SD1, whatever. Get whatever makes you happy and makes you want to keep playing guitar, because that's the point. That's the whole reason that we're all here, is because we love this instrument. It's so much fun. It brings so much joy to my life. I'm so glad that I get to make records every day and that I get to listen to guitar sounds. Rhett, I'm so glad that you make content and that you've done so much for the guitar community over the years. And I hope that this video and that Rhett's video are both informative and maybe confuse you a little and cause you to go out and try to do your own thing, your own experiments, and figure out what pedals are the best for you. Thanks for watching. I've been Matt. This is Capsule to Code.